What's going on, all you gamers? Here we are again, and today we're going to be going over a few things in Outriders. So if you want to know a few kind of combat tips and a little bit on how I play and how I believe probably will be the best way to play with the Pyromancer build, then stay tuned. That's coming up next. Welcome back, all you guys and girls, as always, for all things gaming, for all things Xbox. Why not hit that subscribe and bell icon, and I will bring you the latest and greatest in gaming for Xbox, and a lot more Outriders on the way, which I am absolutely loving at the moment. Now today I'm going to be going over a few tips and a few combat basics for the Pyromancer. Now, how can I put this? The Pyromancer, I would honestly say, is going to be one of the most gear orientated classes in the game. If you're looking for an easy ride in Outriders, if you feel like you struggle at games like this, he may not be the best first choice for yourself. Or if he is, I would say probably keep it to a level that you can play at and work your way towards that later world tier. He seems like he's going to be a little bit on the squishy side, so what I'm going to do is give you a few kind of tips, a few hints, and how I play with him and how I will be playing with him, working towards that end game. Now, if we take a little look at the Pyromancer skill tree, just up here, you'll see he's a medium range conjurer of fire. He has a melee skill that deals 91 damage and inflicts burn on enemies within a small radius. Now, that right there is kind of key. So if you have a little look, his healing mechanic. As the Pyromancer, you will recover health whenever enemies marked by your skills are killed. So basically, if you have a little look, you will need to make sure you are killing people marked with this symbol as much as possible. You're going to need that constantly for the health regen. Receive additional 10% anomaly power. Skills mark damaged enemies for 15 seconds. So basically you've got 15 seconds to get that kill with everyone marked by that symbol. Killing a marked enemy heals you by 24% of your maximum health. Now that can go up, I believe, depending on how you gear yourself, but at the kind of start it'll mean 4 enemies will pretty much get you back to full health. But you can definitely up that in several different ways, and you more than definitely will as you progress through the game. Now, if you're like me, you're very likely going to go down here, go very AoE based, and make sure that you're doing a lot of damage to multi-targets. However, you may need to chuck some in this middle tree here. If you're struggling, this middle tree will be the one that gives you extra health, extra armor, going all the way to near the end. Activate ignite skills, increase your armor by 45% for 10 seconds. This tree is pretty much your survivability tree, and like I said, if you are struggling, don't forget you can respec at any time. So if you don't want to drop that world tier, if you want to progress upwards, you may need to just reset your skill tree at any time with the Y button and then chuck some in that middle skill tree. And don't worry, then you can put them in the bottom or the top one later on as you progress and learn with your class a bit more, or get more used to it, or just get more geared up. Now, another thing for myself, I would say with this class, weapon wise at the moment, I would say it's very mid-ranged. If you have got a nice shotgun, it may work, but I would say only use that if you're using it defensively as such. Say they're coming too close to you, you're in cover, and maybe like with this Golem's Rising, if you've got an actual kind of effect that will give you some kind of a status, some kind of mitigation, that may well be worth having. But in kind of my main build, I would probably, or as a main gun, I would probably be using something that is very mid-range, such as an assault rifle or a double gun. There may be others, but I would say stick to your kind of mid-range stuff, because you're going to want to make sure you're not as close as something such as a Devastator, as you probably won't have that much survivability in your arsenal. Now, one thing that I really think will help Pyromancer will be having reduced skill cooldowns. The more you can use your kind of skills as such, the more you can mark the enemies, the easier it's going to be for you to regenerate health. What you may want to do as well, until you get a complete full setup, you may want to put on one kind of gun that gives you kind of an overshield. So you could use a mod, I believe it's Shield Maiden, that will give you an overshield as such, just above your green bar. You'll be able to get kind of shields back, and it will help you survive a lot. Either that, or you could pick up a legendary such as this, the Golem's Limb. that will give you the golem effect, and it will mean you get 65% reduced damage after you've got a kill, whilst it applies that armour to yourself. Now, there's a few things in this game that can help you with that, but ultimately the main thing you're going to want to do is make sure you're not getting shot too much and getting lots of kills. So if we walk through here, I'm going to show you roughly how I tend to play and what style you probably want to play with the Pyromancer. Now, I am not ideally set up for this. I'm very squishy. I have only got 138 for my health, which is way too low. But basically, as you can see, because I got that kill, I got nada, not a sausage. Whereas if I put them on fire and then get the kill, if you'll have a little look down the bottom, it showed that it was regenerating health. Also, they're all marked. So again, every time I get a kill with them, their health is popping up. Do you see that big health? That's because one of them exploded. So now we're gonna make our way over to here, and like I said, things like the golem's limb. So now I have that, which basically gives me a little bit of a protective layer. So if I do that again, hopefully without dying, I've got that back again. But the main thing you're going to want to do, he says, popping out of cover and getting shot by a sniper, is make sure that you're activating this, getting the old pops off when they're marked, and then you'll get a big health regen. Now, I honestly think Pyromancer will definitely be one of the tougher classes to play. It really will, as you're going to have to constantly be dipping in and out of cover and making sure you're probably not getting absolutely picked off. Some of the other classes, such as Devastator as such, probably will never need to pop into cover. Now, as you can see, just there, I punched him in the face basically, and even that will mark them. And if you can, that's one thing that is so handy with this build. So chuck that on. As you can see, he is now marked. And because I've got that, for example that one, I've got a big chunk of health back. Now, if you have a little look, you get quite some distance on that, and you can actually pop things from really far away. So don't be worried about being too medium range or too close range. I would honestly say, even though it says this is a really kind of medium range, if you needed to be a bit further away with some of your skill set, you quite easily could with this kind of playstyle. But again, if it was me, especially during the early game, until you've got a really good setup with your gear as such, have some kind of a weapon that can either give you some kind of generated health, overshield, or some kind of mitigate damage, I would say. So what I would do is bop towards him, and then I'm going to pop the one next to him, and because I popped that one, it's going to do a big chunk of change to him. If you need to follow up with a melee or a ground pound, just jump in and do it as such, because they're all on fire now, so I'll be getting a good bit of regen from the health, and it works out in my favour. Like I said, if you can put that into a rotation, it works out really well. So chuck that, take some shots. If you need to pop them, pop them. Sometimes you won't need to, it depends on the difficulty as such. But obviously at later levels, I feel this guy will be one of the squishier people, and you will want to make sure that you're kind of keeping your distance a little bit, or getting some team focus, so someone's got you a bit of health regen or got you a bit of mitigation from somewhere, and then you may be able to get into the fray a little bit easier. Now, other things to remember is definitely have a little look at what's on your clothing. So for example, over here, if you have a little look, they'll all have mods on them that can really help you to either get back health or damage or do error effect. It is completely down to what playstyle you're going for and what kind of skill set you've gone for. With myself, and with this kind of a Pyromancer build, I will be going for big AoE damage. So as such, as you'll have a little look, I've gone for Thermal Bomb, Big Boom. Increases the radius by 20%. Just down here, it's got Tidal Wave, Heat Wave. The skill can be activated one more time. Just over here, Thermal Bomb again. The skill inflicts burn on every enemy damaged by the explosion. So as you can see, a little bit later on, because I've got that extra kind of range, and because I've got that, it basically means that everyone then will be affected by burn, and every one of them that dies will be giving me health back. It's just kind of a little bit of forward thinking, and you can change things and muck around with things to your own personalised style. But bear in mind that burning effect is what you're looking for. You want them to have that symbol over them that you're going to be getting the kills for, to make sure your health regens really well. And again, with this, Thermal Blast is extra, so you get an extra 178. That works really well if you're going for that Thermal Blast build. Extra damage is always kind of a must, or really good at least, and it will help to get that initial pop. And just down here, I've gone for Phoenix Force Overheat. Earn additional 25 anomaly power per status consumed by the skill for 8 seconds. Basically means you're going to get a lot of extra anomaly power, and when you next use your skill, you'll be getting a lot more damage. Now, hopefully I haven't come off too negative, because I have been going over a lot how squishy and how kind of tougher this one will be to play as. But once you have your playstyle down, and once you've got really good with this class and actually have everything in place and some great gear on, I feel like this will be one of the best and strongest classes in the game. You'll just need to learn its playstyle as such, especially if you can get this in a group with a bit of healing about them as well. This will be an absolute beast, and it'll be really fun watching everything explode around the battlefield whilst it's on fire. You've just got to learn certain mechanics, like with certain skills such as Overheat. If you use that before anyone's actually on fire, it will not work anywhere near as good as if they're already taking damage and already marked. That way they're going to take a lot more damage from the fire effect, and they'll kind of make a big explosion, especially if they're with Thermal Bomb as well, or another ad has Thermal Bomb on. One of the fundamentals that you almost definitely already know, but just so you do know, pretty much on every single character you will have something just down here that will be called an interrupt. You will 100% need these for solo play, and very possibly for team play, unless you've got someone who's designated for doing it in the group, 1 or 2 people. You'll definitely need this on. The interrupts just stop the special moves that the elites and the bosses are kind of doing, and it makes it a lot easier to survive their onslaught. So when they're going to do that power move, you will want to be using this, and it should knock them out of it unless they're completely invulnerable to it. But yeah, interrupts are kind of a staple. You will definitely need them on your build for solo play, and very possibly need 1 or maybe even 2 for single or group play. Now, if you are really struggling and you want kind of your own way of getting a bit of health back, if you have a little look, this one right here, Feed the Flames, may be essential for you. I haven't put it in my build at the moment, but then I'm not at endgame or anywhere near that as such. Obviously I'm still playing the demo in this one, so I won't know if I'll need this. I'm hoping to stay clear of this one, but again, if you do need health, this seems to be the way forward. Select and pull an enemy towards you, dealing 104 damage, draining 104 health and inflicting ash. So you will be getting health back as you go, and if you've got a really nice cooldown on it as such, it'll be your way to actually get health back, especially if you can kind of multi-target it and get it on say 2 to 3 people. This may be the best way to get your health back. I would also recommend, if you can put into your build, probably go for something like Thermal Bomb, as this will do a lot of area damage. It will definitely do a lot of damage to bosses, and it may be one of the staples in a lot of Pyromancer builds. Now, one thing I would say, if you can, with a Pyromancer, chuck on 1 really damaging gun and 1 backup gun. So as you can see, this one I've got here is a legendary, and it does an awful lot of damage. You'll obviously be able to muck around and tweak some of the mods and such later on, and you may be able to make it so that it gives you a bit of health, a bit of overshield. Whatever your playstyle is, whatever you're struggling with, put that into your build to help you along. But I would say chuck on a secondary at the very least that doesn't need to do as much damage but does keep you alive. Like I said with the Golem's Limb, this one gives you a bit of damage mitigation. If you had one that gives you that kind of health or shield, go for that. One last thing, if you find yourself dying a lot to status effects, don't forget the game does a great job of actually guiding you, and it has its own game guide that you can get to by pressing start and clicking on guides. From there you can have a little look through whatever it is and kind of research a little bit for yourself, but what I'll show you now is just this one just here, classes and skills. And like I said, if we go all the way down to here, status effects on players. Now, one thing I'll show you just before that, because I've just realised you may need to know this: class, heal and leech. Just in case you're not sure what it is, weapon leech, skill leech, basically anything in this game that says leech, it basically means you'll be getting additional health once you use that move. So skill leech would mean when you use your moves, heals you for a percentage of damage dealt by a skill. Weapon would obviously be the same. Anything that has leech on it will be giving you health dependent on what you're using. So mainly skill or weapon as such. But just down here we've got the status effects on players, and this may be something that not a lot of people actually know. Now, when you're affected by the bleed status, you will receive damage over time while moving, and that's pretty much the key. You can avoid taking damage from bleed by standing still for the duration of the effect. Basically, get yourself into some cover and don't be bopping around left, right and centre, otherwise you're going to die from the bleed effect. If you've got bleed and you've got low health with no way of getting that health back, stay in cover, make sure you're not moving around. When you're affected by the burn status, you can remove the status and avoid damage by rolling. Basically, you put the burn out by rolling off. Just over here, and you've got the toxic effect is removed when you receive healing during its duration. So basically, if someone else heals you or you're able to heal yourself, that's the only way of getting rid of toxic. Kind of similar as if it's a poison effect as such. You can break through crowd control effects. When you're affected by ash or freeze, you can use your melee attacks to break free. So as you can see, there's a lot of things here that can kill you at any point if you don't know how to get out of them. So it's well worth actually reading this and having a look through all of this game guide right here, as it actually gives you quite a lot of information that can help you to survive in battles. Right, all you gamers, I'm sure I've taken up enough of your time, but yeah, the general premise is stay kind of medium range with the Pyromancer. He will be very, very gear orientated. He will have to use a lot of moves in quite of a consistent fashion. You will need to pop those kind of enemies once they are marked to get your health back. And having a secondary that can actually help you regenerate your health, give you a shield, give you some kind of mitigation, may well be the way to go. But if you're after a really fun kind of character who's going to be doing a lot of AoE damage, is the closest to a mage you can get in the game, then this may be the playstyle for you. You're just going to have to gear him and probably work towards that really, really nice setup. But that's part of the fun in these games, so hopefully you do that and hopefully you enjoy it. As always gamers, take care, I hope that's helped some of you. I'll see you all next day.